man.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the music for now.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was playing. I was just, dude, it's been on the whole day, man. It's crazy.
I was loving it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, good move on that, bro. Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. Completely forgot, bro.
Is it an AI DJ?
No. What did you cue that up, Miss Ashley, or was that Miss Ant's cue still?
No, that was still me sans from early.
That's so sick. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I need to give him some props for that, bro.
Yeah, he had quite a a flow throughout the entire day. We're gonna be in here the whole day. He had a whole flow, and it really, yeah, he actually, I don't know if he timed this right, but those flows like flowed the vibes just right leading into this community call, especially with Landmower sharing his ride back to his house, which was awesome. Beautiful countryside stuff and beautiful foliage. It was like watching an old 90s sitcom or something.
Oh yeah, man, that was vibes, man. Very nostalgic. Drive back home.
It really was. Greeted by his dog right there in the yard. It's awesome.
What's this link I see about Starbucks POAPs?
Polygon and got a little partnership or whatever with Starbucks. I don't know. Taking on a lot of weird VC funding lately. Not looking good. It's making Gnosis look a lot more homey.
Yeah. How's it going, Ben? Can we pick your brain about source grid? Give us everything you got.
Hey, wow, that was quick. Popped my head up and right away. Hey, y'all. Yeah, I was actually just going through the thread about integrating source credit and Coordinape, and I was going to reply, but then I saw y'all hanging, so I figured I'd just drop in. Yeah, so like just off the top of my head, like first of all, I apologize for not replying sooner. I had some just like personal issues. My father died, and going through some stuff. But yeah, I am excited about this idea and definitely want to support it. And happy to answer any questions. Happy to answer any questions if you wanted to talk about it now also.
We got like another 5 minutes of just chill time and talking time.
I have so many questions. I don't know if 5 minutes will go, but I guess, figuring out the flow from something like project management of, say, Notion that has an integration with Discord. So you can push bounty cards into Discord for tasks, right? Or into DWork, rather. Sorry. And in DWork, you can have bounties attached to these tasks all automatically right away, or you can push them down and keep track of them, and then bundle that. So DWork pushes to Coordinape on your epoch. so as your contribution. So then when you're in your circle, you can see everything that went from Notion to dwork to coordinate. And then any additional stuff is going in did a thing, right? Maybe the things that are a little one-offs, or, you know, maybe not recurring tasks, or something kind of abstract, or maybe, you know what I mean? That would maybe kind of become the space for that, is the idea. And source cred's still scraping from Discord, Discourse, and GitHub. But in addition, the circles that are technology, growth, content, and community will each have coordinate circles that go to a main larger circle that helps delegate give, which is what coordinate uses to track points, basically. And then use that give percentage ratio and put it into an initiative to go back into source cred. So we're always going back to source cred for XP. And the coordinate circles are basically providing like a bonus structure for the regular working circles that are specifically working on XYZ. And so like showing kind of like recognition of that and creating like a closer thing to maybe a stable type pay, but kind of in reverse. So I don't know if that's a quick rundown.
I'm hearing some music. I don't know if someone's trying to talk.
Lawnmower, mute lawnmower.
Yo, Lan.
Yeah, I.
Sorry, Lan.
I feel like I'm at a bar or something.
Ambiance.
So, yeah, anyway,
Sorry, bro.
There we go. Yeah, so I actually
I'm gonna get so much shit for server meeting in. It was the only button I had.
I think it had to be done. Yeah, so like I have a few more minutes if anyone wants to continue talking about this stuff. But yeah, my first impression was like it sounds like a really like an amazing design. The only part that you kind of lost me was how the the give feeds back into the other circles and XP.
Yeah, so right now I think it's basically been like there's been a proposal to say, hey, we want this amount of seeds to be delegated to this circle, and then this amount of give to be delegated to this circle to allocate. People allocate their give, and then based on how much give they got out of the total amount of give, they get that percentage that then you take from the overall seeds that went there, right? So if you had 2,000 seeds go to the circle and you got 10% of the give of the allocation, you would get 10% of that 2,000 seeds, right? I think that's how it's being structured right now. And maybe Pete, if you're here, you can touch on that too. But I mean, this might be a much longer conversation than for right now.
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes.
I like the long pause.
I think that's a perfect sign. that it's time to start. We only have like 1 minute till we should start anyway. So let's go ahead and have Crypto Mastery. If you're ready, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about ETH Scaffold and Buidl.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. Awesome to be here. Yeah, so quick introduction. My name is Kevin. I kind of been working in like technology for like 20 years, but started getting into like Web3 and like concept of like decentralization and building on a decentralized protocol about like 2.5 years ago. And actually stumbled across Scaffold ETH as a user and just kind of got obsessed with it. Started creating all sorts of videos about it, doing like I even did some webinars at my work. I currently work actually full-time for a Web2 company called NGINX. Some of you guys probably have heard of NGINX before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so just kind of like obsessed with Web3 and like this new concept and stuff like that. So I started doing developer advocacy for Scaffold ETH. I met Austin at ETH Amsterdam, and I've been doing that for about a year. And yeah, just here to support like builders and people that want to build on Ethereum. And yeah, so to teach you guys a little bit about what Buidl is, what speedrun Ethereum is, and actually give like a little bit of a demo of Scaffold ETH. That's cool. So let me.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
How do I share my whole screen? Oh, there we go. Okay, so go live, entire screen. Boom, here we go. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
So yeah, so the Build Guild is cool because it's basically a group of like a bunch of builders, and we've kind of like drastically like started onboarding a lot more lately because Austin actually won an award for Speedrun Ethereum, which I'm going to get to in a second, but it's basically like kind of a learning platform for like builders. Build Guild is kind of like where you end up if you like start building on Ethereum and using Scaffold ETH. You kind of eventually get kind of funneled through the Speedrun Ethereum platform, which basically is this kind of like way to like vet your like kind of experience and your knowledge, and you kind of go through these quests. And like the first one you do is like you deploy an NFT. The next one you do is like you build a staking app, so you learn how to like kind of like stake ETH into a smart contract. Then you build a token vendor, which allows you to kind of exchange ETH for like some kind of token. And then we build a dice game, and then eventually you get invited to the Build Guild. So what is the Build Guild? It's basically just a group of builders. So like you can connect your wallet, and there's tons of like builds that developers have built on top of Scaffold ETH that like provide some kind of functionality. And you can actually get incentivized to do stuff for the Build Guild and get paid in Ethereum. So we've streamed, Build Guild has streamed 256 ETH to developers. So just in the last month, we've streamed 34 ETH. So, when I joined, this was at like 200. So we've almost 3 times the amount of builders. The builds have kind of slowly been going up, but the amount of ETH has also been kind of slowly going up. So what it looks like is you have this kind of like portfolio, and you can, if it would load, I don't know why it's so slow right now, but yeah, here we go. So as you kind of finish these challenges, you can like kind of submit them and they get accepted. You can see your previous code that you did. But then eventually you can get upgraded to a better status where you can actually submit builds. So like this profile, I haven't submitted any builds. This is kind of like just my demo profile. But if I was to connect my, let's see, connect my wallet connect real quick. See here, and then I can connect wallet connect. 1 sec. So here we have a different profile. And you can see here that I've kind of done some work for, and I have access to a stream. So like I basically get streamed some ETH. I'm in the support group, and as I like give presentations and like teach people about the Scaffold ETH, and I get incentivized to do that. So that's just one example. But you could be a builder, you could be an artist, you could be all sorts of different things, and you can also vote on builds too. Like, so these are all the different builds that people have created. Punk Wallet is a real popular one. Actually, Speedrun Ethereum is all built on Scaffold ETH as well. So there's these kind of ABI Ninja, which is an awesome one as well. And so you can like kind of vote on your favorite builds, and they can kind of get accepted into the Scaffold ETH kind of system. So if you do a search for Scaffold, it's like the first thing that comes up. It's all on GitHub. And again, Scaffold ETH is kind of like the backbone to like what powers the build guild, because everyone's building on top of Scaffold ETH. It's kind of like a toolkit that basically comes with kind of everything you need to like build a dApp. Most importantly, it comes with Hardhat, it comes with React, and it also comes with like kind of like a hello world smart contract that allows you to start kind of like toying around and get up and running. All you need is Node.js installed on your laptop and Yarn, and then obviously Git to check out the repository. So if you just make sure you're using the newest version of Yarn Package Manager, and then we recommend Node 16. You can use 17, you can use 18, but Node 16 seems to work the best. And really, that's all you need. And then this thing kind of walks you through spinning it up, which I'm going to do here in a second. But all the instructions are here, all the kind of walk through how you should kind of start learning more about Solidity, and then it kind of eases you into Speedrun Ethereum, right? There's tons of videos on YouTube as well. So if you're one of those visual learners, you can kind of watch some of the presentations I've given at like Ethereum conferences. There's also a bunch from Austin, who's the creator of Scaffold ETH, right? And so, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff online if you get lost, but I'm going to go through a demo today. It's not up and running now, so let's go ahead and let's kind of show what that looks like. So I'm using Terminal, I'm using Mac, and I'm using what's called Tmux, which is just, it allows me to have like 3 windows open. You could do all this in separate windows. The reason why you need 3 windows open is because you always kind of have like a couple debug windows open, and then you have one window open where you do your deploys. So the first step that you get going is you spin up Hardhat. So Hardhat is just one command. You run Yarn chain, that spins up Hardhat. You always keep that window open. Then you do a Yarn start, which spins up React in the second window. And that one you always keep open. So again, you're like you can think of like this as your front end or your back end. And this is your front end, because this is where you're publishing your smart contracts. This is where you're doing your front end code. And it comes with some front end code. It comes with a smart contract. So at this point, you're just kind of spinning up both of these tools, right? And then in this third window is kind of where you do all your stuff. You do like your deploys. We can do a Yarn deploy. We can see here that as we did that deploy, well, first React started. We also see some output here, which is cool. That tells us like, hey, what's going on with our smart contract. We have some reads. We have some like gas that was used to actually deploy the contract, which is what this is right here. We got a copy of the contract. It tells us how much gas. Gas is basically like kind of that upfront amount of stuff you need to pay for your smart contract. And now we have Scaffold ETH up. So Scaffold ETH, again, it all runs in React. And the first thing you'll notice, you have kind of all these tabs here. This first tab is kind of where you would build out your application if you're like a front-end developer. So it's in this home directory, which is in a home JSX file right here. But really the sweet sauce of Scaffold ETH is this debug contracts folder, okay? The debug contracts folder, what it does is kind of cool, is as you build your smart contract, it reads in your ABI, which is like kind of like the map of your smart contract, and it automatically creates a UI for you. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go over here. Let's open up the structure of this smart contract, or I should say of the project. And let's take a look at what's going on here. So we have a couple folders here that are important inside this packages folder. There's Hardhat and there's React. Those are really the 2 places that you're going to hang out with Scaffold ETH. And inside of the contracts folder, there's an existing smart contract. So this is the Hello World smart contract that comes with it. So we define a string, and then we have a function that allows us to update that string. So that's kind of what we're seeing right here, right? We have a string called purpose, and then we have a function that allows us to change that purpose. So I could come here and say metagame, this, boom, 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 and try to hit send. You can tell me I don't have any funds, so I can't pay for my transaction. So next thing you'll realize is that you have a wallet automatically here. You don't need to connect MetaMask. You don't have to connect Wallet Connect with MetaMask. You can just use this burner wallet, which is really cool. It's just this wallet that's built into the browser. So if I come to a new tab like this, I'm going to still have access to that burner wallet. It's the same address. You see it right here. But if I say incognito window and go to localhost 3000, then I'll get a completely new burner wallet. So here I have this kind of like brown green guy. Here I have this kind of like full yellow guy. So it allows you to create identities inside of separate browsers. Okay. So let's get some funds from the wallet. All I have to do is click that button, and what it's going to do is send me some funds from Hardhat. So now I should be able to change this to metagame. There we go. So it'll let me successfully send a transaction. And if we looked over here in the terminal, we could see that there was a contract call that was made and it was updated. So immediately I'm starting kind of interacting with my smart contract. And if you, by the way, if you want to get more funds, you can grab the address here and you can come down to this wallet and you can say, oh, okay, I want to actually get like $1,000 US ETH, send it to me. And that will pull that from Hardhat and deposit it into your burner wallet. And if I want to send some over here, I could do that as well. I could grab this one, grab some funds. Let's say I want to do it in ETH. I could say, here's the address, and I actually want 10 ETH. Send. Now it's going to send me a bunch of ETH. So now I have 10 ETH here, which is equivalent to $12,000. So it allows you to kind of split up, create these identities. So let's start tinkering around just a little bit and show what this looks like. So let's say we want to do something a little more interesting. Let's say we want to take this address and we want to create a new variable. So address public, and we'll call it the boss. And we'll paste that address there like that. And then let's do like a require statement. So let's require that anyone that's calling this function require that the message.sender is equal to the boss. Otherwise, let's throw an error that says you are not the boss. It's just a simple kind of like access control of a function. So we're just setting up a variable of that boss, and we're just checking to make sure that someone is the boss when they call this. So I could save that, and then I could come over here and I could do a yarn deploy -- reset. And immediately I'm just basically forcing a new deploy of my smart contract. It was successful. And now I can come back to my UI and you'll see that I have this new variable. So the UI automatically adapted, knew that I had a new variable. And then if I come over here to this kind of incognito window and say, well, I am not the boss, I don't know, something like that, like this, and send, it's going to tell me that you're not the boss because I'm not able to call that because I'm the owner. But if I come over here and say I am, hit send, it's going to let me. So you can see how you can start kind of tinkering around with your smart contract, kind of going through this kind of process of like updating your smart contract. So let's go back, let's get rid of this, and let's require that instead of the message sender, let's require the message value is equal to a price that we're going to set, and say not enough money, like this. And let's instead set a uint, so an unsigned integer called that's publicly available called price, and we'll set it at 0.01 ether. So like this, right? And we can save that and redeploy again. So you can see what we're doing. We're kind of just trying different things. Now we're going to require that someone sets some value in this transaction. So now we got a new variable called price. And we can say, all right, well, if I want to call this smart contract function and I want to set it to like, hey, what's up? Like this. And I try to send, it's going to tell me, well, I haven't put enough money into the function. So let's figure this out. So this is 0.01 ETH. So you would kind of expect you could just come over here and paste this in like this, and that's going to work. But that's not going to work because anytime you transact on Ethereum, you actually need to send it in Wei, which is the lowest denominational value, right, of the currency of Ether. So you'll see this cool button here that does the math for you, which it multiplies the value times 10 to the 18th power, which gives us the Wei. So we can instantly convert that to Wei, and now we can send it, and then it was successful. So now what happens? Well, now the smart contract has some value, right? It's got $12.76. So we're actually utilizing the smart contract at this point as a bank. If I come over here, I could say, hey, not much, and I can add to this smart contract in any way that I wanted to, in any kind of like decentralized way. Convert that, send. So now it's going to have 25 bucks. So, but there's a problem. We don't have any way to get the funds out of the smart contract. So let's just kind of tinker around with that a little bit, and let's do that. So first of all, the second thing you'll learn with Solidity is you can inherit a smart contract, or I should say you can import and inherit a smart contract. So we can take this ownable smart contract, which is the Open Zeppelin kind of standard that allows you to do ownership of a smart contract, and we can import it, and then we can make our contract inherited from that ownable contract. And what that does is it gets you access to any of the smart contracts that functions, variables, modifiers, anything that's inside of this smart contract, which you could go look at it if you wanted to on Open Zeppelin's GitHub, and it gives them to you accessible. And it's also going to set the ownership. So it's going to, if there's a constructor, which there is, it's going to set the ownership. So what we can do is save that. Let's go ahead and save that real quick, and let's redeploy again. And let's see what happens to our smart contract. Well, we have some new functions. We have a renounce ownership function, which is part of ownable. And we also get a transfer ownership, which is part of ownable. But we have an owner variable now, which used to be, we called it the boss, right? But now it's called the owner, which is what ownable sets it as. And it does not match any of the addresses that we have access to. So in order for us to get access to the smart contract and call the transfer ownership function, we need that public key and private key, because we need to be able to sign this transaction to transfer ownership. So where is this coming from? This is coming from Hardhat. So it's a Hardhat address. And so what we can do is go back to our project, and in the Hardhat folder, there's a deploy script. And so this is how we actually deploy our smart contract. So here is the smart contract, and here's the deploy script, which is just a JavaScript. Uses ethers.js, and it gets us a copy of our smart contract. And what's important is we have access to, well, here's the deployer, first of all. So here we get the named accounts from Hardhat, and it just takes the very first one and sets that as the deployer. And so here's where we set who the deployer is. And we can also pass arguments in the smart contract here if we wanted to as well. Like, let's say you wanted to name it meta game, something like that, or MGE or something, I don't know. You could rename your token. You could also set a supply here of like 777777 or something like that. We're not going to do that, but that's how you would pass arguments to the constructor. But more importantly, what I want to show here is here's where we get a copy of our smart contract. So we deploy it using ethers. And you'll see that there's this example here that allows us to call a transfer ownership. So what we can do is call your contract, call transfer ownership, which is what we see here, and we could transfer it to whoever we want here during the deploy. So let's grab this address and let's paste that in here. Okay, and then let's save that, and then let's redeploy again. And so what's going to happen now is it's going to deploy our contract just like normal, but it's also going to transfer the ownership so that we have access to that smart contract. So now you'll see these match. So if I wanted to, I could send it over here to this guy. I could say here, transfer ownership, send, and boom, now he's the owner. Okay, so because we have access to that smart contract. So the reason why I want to show that is because the next step in our smart contract is we have this function that's taking value, but we have no way to get it out. So let's go into our smart contract one more time, and let's create a new function. Let's call it withdrawal. We'll do that. And we'll make it public. And what we'll do is we'll set a Boolean called success, otherwise we won't. And then what we'll do is so the person that calls this function, we're going to do message.sender.call, which is basically every time you want to transfer value from a smart contract to an address, you should do a call. And then what we're going to do is make the value of that call the address of this smart contract's balance. So this smart contract's balance, you don't really need to know exactly what this is doing, but basically what we're saying is like, what is the balance of this smart contract? And let's do a call to the message sender and send all of that value in a transaction. But the most important thing here is that now that we've done ownable and we've inherited the ownable smart contract, we get access to what's called the only owner modifier. So we can say only owner here, like this, and save that. Let's see if this is successful. Let's redeploy this one. There it goes. So it's successful. Okay, so now let's look at our smart contract one more time. So now we can say here, all right, cool. So we want to change the purpose to meta game. Boom, 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 boom. And let's send the value. It was successful. We have some value in the smart contract. So if I'm this little hacker guy over here and I say, oh, I want to come in here and get this value of the smart contract, I could come here and call withdrawal, and it's going to fail. I'm not the owner of the smart contract. But if I come over here to this one, which I am, then I can withdraw the functions. So you can see what we've kind of been doing here. We're utilizing scaffold ETH to deploy our smart contract. We're kind of toying around with it, redeploying our changes, adjusting the deployment script. We didn't really get too much into the front end, but the React app is here as well. So like if you know front end JavaScript, there's the app JSX. It's a little bit of a beast, but we can change our network. So if we wanted to deploy to like say Guidl, we could do that here. We could also like update our application, which is in the home folder, right? So any of our app we could build into this kind of area and start kind of exploring with that. There's also an example UI one, which is really interesting, which gives you some kind of example ways to interact with your application. Like let's say you want to just set the purpose to cheers, or you want to send some value. You can just send some value into the contract like that, and then it's going to like push that money into the contract. And so now we can, so I want to show one more thing real quick. What's interesting is we can take this smart contract and we could make it kind of like a variable. So we have this price, right, that we're setting. What if we just added one thing? We said price equal price times 2. Like this. Sorry. Like this. Save and deploy that smart contract. So with just one little small change to the smart contract, we can come over here, and if we take the price, which is here, and we change it to metagame, boom, pass that value, transfer, boom, instantly the price is doubling. So we're kind of creating this kind of like scaling price. So if this guy comes over here and he tries to submit 0.001, that's not going to work. We actually need to do this, and then we say 0.02 send, and then now it's 4. So then we can say this is getting expensive. So you can see what we did. Obviously you wouldn't want to like double your price, and I don't know, maybe you would, I don't know, but 0.4. And we can see that we're doing this kind of like scaling price, right? And now we have all these funds in the smart contract. So if I come over here, try to withdraw, it's not going to let me. But since I'm the owner here, now I can hit withdrawal, and I can grab all those funds out and send them to my wallet. And now we're kind of back to square one. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of like my demo. Hopefully that was kind of useful. If you're interested in building on Ethereum, like scaffold, it's just a really good kind of starting point. It's also really good for like hackathon projects because there's a lot of examples. Oh, that's what I want to show. One more second. I want to show one more thing. So let me go back here. So if we go to like scaffold ETH and we come over here to like this little like master branch. Okay, well, first of all, let's go to the root. There's scaffold ETH here, which is kind of like the main project, but then there's an examples folder. So inside scaffold ETH examples, you can actually do a search for like 721 like this, and there'll be like or like NFT or something like that. There's a bunch of NFT examples, right? So like if you're building something, you could probably go off that starting point, and you're going to be like a little bit more well off. So sorry, I hope I didn't go over my time. I just realized that I might have gone over. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're doing great on your time. Our first 15 minutes of our call is just kind of hanging out, so
okay, awesome.
We didn't really use up all your time.
Great,
cool. And, so, well, I can answer questions if anyone has any. Love to Yeah.
Exactly. Anybody have any questions? We have a few in here that are a little bit mind blown. We have a few in here that are clearly in the chat saying, hey, this is exactly what we were talking about and what we need. So yeah, let's hear it, folks.
Yeah, I think it's awesome to see you guys working on this and see House working on similar things with V3. And what was the other one, Musashi, that we were looking at earlier too? Different people are making and like Third Web and React to Lens and all these things that are allowing people to kind of push forward with creating these tools faster and being able to start doing more things, right? And making it more accessible to more people too is pretty cool. And hearing that you know, numbers have almost tripled since you joined, and hearing your questing flow is really amazing too. One of our other guests coming up later is talking about Quest 2, and we have quest chains here and are integrating it into our playbooks and onboarding. So it'd be really interesting to maybe have you back to talk a little bit specifically about that flow that you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, and as far as I heard you mention Lens too. There is like a Lens example branch, but I'm also working on like a Lens challenge, which hopefully will be part of that curriculum as well, where like it's going to be like kind of an optional challenge where like anyone can kind of pick like side quest, kind of like a side quest. We call it the tech tree, where you can like kind of just go off on a tangent with some kind of protocol, right? So like one of those is Lens. So I just wrote like a real basic one. And we're going to create another kind of more advanced one that does authentication. So yeah, I'll let you know once that's available too. Oh yeah, ETH build is awesome. Someone just linked to ETH build, by the way. ETH build is like
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another Austin Griffith project. For me, I'm a real visual person. So for some of you musicians out there like Jose, ETH.build will really help you to understand some of the actions that you take in Solidity code and kind of where it's connected. It helps you visualize what's going on, but you can actually do the things with ETH.build too. So what a phenomenal tool. That link to Austin Griffith's YouTube channel has a tutorial series just on ETH.build too. That's really awesome. So if you really want to go deep into this, I highly suggest using that as a tool as well for your learning.
Yeah, it's ridiculously good. It's like when I found that, I was like, how did not more people know about it, you know?
Yeah, agreed. Anyone who's looking to get into Solidity or any type of blockchain backend type stuff, even front end, just to understand things better, playing with things like this are really awesome just to understand it more and get a little bit deeper. I've done some of it just to learn more, not necessarily needing to use it on a specific project, but going through some of the tutorials that Austin Griffith has just to understand better some of the functionalities of some of these things we're calling in Solidity contracts. So I understand even what I'm just interacting with. I can now look at a contract and say, oh, okay, there's that function that always links to this and does this. You know, it really helps a lot.
Thanks again for having me, guys.
Thank you for that demo. Yeah, we'd love to have more in-depth demos and maybe have a call with just you sometime, and have a little bit more time to run through some deeper stuff. Maybe even kind of like a pair programming with some of our developers here at Metagame.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's sync up after this.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again for that. we're going to move on to our next guest, Dante of Ethernaut DAO. Dante, are you good on your audio? Are you here? Yeah, he's here.
Checking. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hearing you great. Welcome. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and the Ethernauts? What a cool name.
Thank you. So Ethernaut, it's a DAO that it's basically bridging Web2 senior developers to Web3. So what we ended up understanding in the last bull run is that there's high demand for developers, and when you are living through a bull run, especially, you don't have the time to kind of train someone from zero to a high level solidity. So we basically started to train senior developers from other industries, and we ended up understanding that with the 2 month training and not that much time invested from the trainer, you can have really good core contributors to Web3 really fast. So we ended up opening this DAO that it basically does that. It has a pool of senior developers looking to be trained by OGs in the space, and they come, they say, hey, I need to expand my team, I need to more developers for my project, and people apply to these mentorships and get picked by those OGs in the space, basically. That's mainly what we have been doing for the last year and a half, and we have trained like 40 developers. They are all working as core contributors now. And we were amazed by this, by how easy it is to bring more people in, especially people that has a lot of background working on huge projects. The last mentorships, we had some people from Google and Apple that wanted to jump into Web3, and it's amazing to see them come, basically. And now my job basically is to look for partnerships and look for grants, because we don't charge. It's all free for mentors and for mentees. We are just a node that connect both ends, and we live on donations. And I applied for a grant in Optimism, and we started to think, okay, what do we want to do next? And we came up with this attestation on chain. So we created a token, a soulbound token. It's a transferable token that you receive if you made any sort of developer educational contribution, if you wrote an article, if you helped someone, if you did a mentorship, anything that make more people come in as a developer, we gave them EXP. It's called the token. So we had this on-chain attestation of people that it's investing their time into educating more developers, and we said, okay, now what? We have all this info. What do we do now? And we applied for a grant, and we are starting to basically airdrop money to those contributors in the form of OP tokens for now. But as we move on, the idea is for these people that it's working on expanding the developer space to be able to get some money for doing that. That it's basically impossible to do now. I mean, there's no, I don't know, there's no university that will pay you a salary for training more devs. So we are here to kind of solve that problem. I don't know if anyone wants to ask something. I've been in a monologue for the last 2 to 5 minutes.
That sounds really awesome. Thanks for sharing so far. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, if no,
not like questions, but really glad about today's topics and conversations and the links and the information I'm receiving. So thank you.
Okay, cool.
This is really awesome because it's something that's needed in the space, to have mentors. That's kind of, in the trade industry, you don't just learn the trade at a school and then immediately go try to find a job. You have this in-between stage where you learn from a master, someone who's already learned from another master, with not just the knowledge that they learned from the schooling, but the experience that they have from these, say 10,000 hours of doing whatever that specific thing is. And in Web3, we don't really have that. So this is awesome to be able to connect the common goods together, developers with mentors. Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah, so the idea now is, for example, if you guys have someone that you know that have helped you, or someone that has a written article that helped developers to move forward on an educational level, then you should just jump into our DAO and say, hey, I know this guy. He has these articles. I want him to receive some EXP, and we'll basically send the EXP to the address that this person say, and he will be able to subscribe for airdrops from us.
Yeah, we've got a lot in metagame, and Crypto Mastery just shared. I think that's a person who could get on there, huh?
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm checking it out right now. This is really cool. I think that like this is 100% needed. Me and Austin talk about it all the time. Is that like we need more Web 2 devs in Web 3, and the only way to do it is like a little bit of hand holding because it's a lot of different concepts, So this is really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, people like you and Austin have been leading the way in teaching people without these platforms available, but finding the people that want to pair program and get deeper into it. And you all have really changed a lot of people's development in the space in just being willing to give your time and your energy to the education portion. Yeah, it's about time that we find an avenue where you can continue doing that and be supported better.
Austin is getting the maximum amount of EXP that we can send to a wallet because of his speedrun, basically, course. He has been on our DAO since the beginning, and he has like his own channel where he answers questions, code questions once in a while, and it's an amazing guy. So we believe he must be compensated for what he's doing, and I think Crypto Mastery should hop in and name a few. I know he should be having some EXP too. So happy to bring everyone in. I feel Ethernaut DAO should be a beacon for developers to join and understand that it's an open place for OGs and new members to connect, talk to each other.
Joining right now.
Definitely. Dante, do you have anything more to share with us?
No, I think the links are there. Join the DAO. Ask code questions if you need them. There's really good people answering all the questions about coding and problems you might have. and just be there. You get a lot of educational resources, or you can expand your teams if you need it really fast with a tremendously small investment. I mean, a senior Solidity developer spends 1 or 2 hours a week, and he gets a senior core contributor in 2 months for his team. So the amount of time you invest to get a new developer into the space is tremendously small.
All right, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, Dante, thank you for sharing that. We'll have to pass this out to all our friends. We have a lot of people who really need to get plugged into that. Thank you for putting it together, working on it.
Awesome. Thank you for the time, and my DMs are always open if anyone has any problem with joining the DAO.
Awesome. Okay, our next guest is richiebonilla. Bonilla. You'll have to correct me.
Hey, yeah, it's Bonilla.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Excellent.
So Richie is here. He's representing the Quests.xyz or XYZ, however you want to say that. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Richie, and tell us about Quests.
Sure. So my name is Richie. I am also we're the same team that built Clarity Teams, and so Quest is our next product. It's a complementary product to Clarity, and it takes a bit of a different approach. So I can explain how it works. So what we're calling Quest is a socially verified portfolio of work for contributors. And a socially verified portfolio for contributors is one where contributors can showcase the work that they've done, but have the social proof built in, so that when you look at it, you're not just seeing a portfolio website with no proof or backing that this actually happened. And the reason this is important is because right now it's really difficult to create a portfolio website, right? Most people don't have one unless you're a developer or a designer. It's a pretty big lift to do that. And for the people who do have one, when we talk to them, they're usually not pretty happy with how it represents them. So it's high maintenance, and people are not usually happy with the results that they're currently having. And so what Quest does is it creates this flywheel where you can create what we call a quest, and a quest can be thought of as we calling a portfolio worthy unit of work. So that could be a collaboration, a project, something as big as like a season of a DAO could be a quest. Like, your community gathering could be a quest, or the series of community gatherings could be a quest. Just depends on how you want to commemorate them. And so you start a quest, you send a mobile first landing page for the quest to the people who you're working on it with. Think of it like a little invitation that you could send in any group chat or Discord or DM. They can join the quest. They can list their contributions to the quest, and other people in the who are a part of the quest can also then verify their contributions. And at the end, what you end up with is a commemorative NFT for the quest that you created, and that everyone who contributed to the project gets a chance to mint. And that's a NFT that commemorates what happened, and it puts your professional network on chain for people who you've actually worked with, which is really important. It's not just people you're following for some reason, or that you saw in a hallway one time, or in a Discord, or in the same Discord. It's people who you've actually worked with. And so it's very high signal graph that's created there. Now, yeah, I'm going to stop there. I'll take if there's any questions there, I can always dig into more details, and I can also talk about sort of why we're building this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize that you were also the team that built Clarity. We all love Clarity as well. Hyperion, I know, loves Clarity a lot. A lot of us have tested it out quite a bit. A lot of us are using it in quite a few different communities.
I use it about for about 2 or 3 hours a day, about 2 times
Love
a week.
that.
So, yeah, love it.
So
Nice.
I do have a question about Quests and Clarity. Will Quests be integrated within Clarity?
Yeah, so the way we see it is that when we approach things with Clarity, we were approaching it in a way where we're saying, well, if everyone just does their work in Clarity, then we could provide you reputation and we could provide you metadata and we could like help you streamline your workflows. And what we found is that because of the nature of DAOs and of communities and of just like independent work in general, you can't always count on using the same tool across all of the projects you work on or all the quests that you're on. And so if we're a tool that requires that you use us for the entire collaboration, then we can never actually provide you with meaningful information, meaningful data that you could use for like reputation, for example. It always would just be like one ingredient in the soup of ingredients. And so what Quests does is it takes the opposite stance where it says like, we're actually going to tie in with all these other tools and allow you to attach Clarity docs, Notion docs, bounties, other things as proof of work to the quest. And so Quests is specifically meant to be across all the different tools that you're using and let you attach those Figma boards or any of the other things that you're doing that help fulfill the quest. And so it'll integrate with Clarity in the sense that we can help, if you're doing work in Clarity, we can help pull some of that work into Quests more seamlessly. But the point is that you don't have to use Clarity in order to use Quests. And that's a big feature of why you would use Quests, is so that you can use it consistently across all your communities because you don't need to get anyone's permission, right? So we say that Quest is not a DAO tool, it's a contributor tool. It's a tool that you can use in any community because you're the only person who has to agree to use it. And you can send it to the other people who are working on the quest with you, and they can get an NFT by just pressing a button. And that commemorates the work that you've done together. And so because it's super lightweight, you don't have to convince everybody to like use this tool for the entire workflow and all that stuff, which is typically a pretty hard ask.
What chain is the NFT on?
Polygon.
That's awesome. How do you guys see yourselves? Like there's like 101.xyz that's doing some questing. We have quest chains that came out of us, QuestChains.xyz, that's doing some questing type things, and there's more of these popping up. I mean, even the workshop in the beginning, they had some questing for Build Guild, and it seems like that's kind of where we're all naturally heading. Do you feel like there's ever a point where there's redundancy going on in the ecosystem, and how does everyone find the right gap and so that we're like cooperatively competing rather than just like creating more of the same things, or like not knowing that we're doing it at the same time, and then we're all like, look at this awesome, oh wait, you brought cake too.
Right. Yeah, the way we see it is that our quests are not they're actually inverted to how the word quest has been used in Web3 so far. So quests as a term is typically used to describe a like predefined learning path or something that you do and you follow, and at the end you get a reward. And that multiple people can all go on the same quest and get that reward as well, or that credential, or that, whatever it is. That's the opposite of what a quest is, in our opinion, because a quest for us is a self-directed venture into the unknown. No two people can go on the same quest. You should be defining your own quests and doing what we're calling self-credentialing. So you create a quest for yourself. You do the quest. The people who are contributing to the quest with you also do it, and you get a bespoke NFT that commemorates the work that you did there. And no one else could ever go on that quest again because that's your quest. And we think that that's more true to the term quest.
That's Great answer. Thank you.
How are the NFTs like made or customized, or do you just like punch them in?
So yeah, so every quest has artwork. Like you can think of it like cover art for like an album, right? It's the same, it's a square cover art. And we'll have ways for you to generate that artwork if you don't have your own. But if you have photographs or other media that came out of the quest, then you could use that. And then every quest NFT will have certain metadata that shows, based on who you were. Like if you organized the quest, then you'll have like organizer metadata on there. If you contributed, you'll have that. And we'll also be generating there'll be how do I say this? Like there'll be text on the quest NFT image itself to indicate what that metadata is. So we'll generate those on the fly for you to mint based on the artwork and your specific role in the quest and some other metadata that's relevant to the quest. So that when you're showcasing it in your wallet or on your quest profile, you can start to see that metadata front and center.
And another question about, do you have any plans for doing like visualization of the connections? Because you did kind of speak to that a little bit. Is it because you have like greater plans for visualization of ecosystem connectivity? Because I think that's like wholly lacking in the space, because I don't know, human beings are visual creatures, not like ledger masters. So having like more down to earth representation of all of those connective points would be super cool. And I don't think anyone else is doing it.
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? It's like in order to create meaningful visualizations, you first need to have meaningful connections. And what we did a lot of experiments with Clarity on DAOs that were heavily using Clarity. We created visualizations of the behavior that was going on in the DAO to show who's working with each other often, who's doing a lot of contributions, who's making a lot of wiki edits. And while it was interesting, that data didn't typically net out to be anything that was like really valuable to the contributors. Like, yeah, you could show that like you had a big impact, but it wasn't really going to like convince anybody that you were like qualified to do anything specific, right? And so what we are really focusing on with Quest is just creating this like one way of connecting with other people, which is that you both went on a quest together. And if you do that, then you can say that like, okay, the network that's created here as a result is people who have actually done stuff together or worked on something together or had a shared experience. And that's much higher signal than like following you on Twitter or like being in the same Discord. And so the first step is to create really meaningful connections. And that will allow us to create, then be able to visualize what that looks like and it actually be useful. Right. And so the one of the questions we get asked is like, well, why does it have to be an NFT? Why does this need to be Web3? And the reason, one of the biggest reasons is so that you can do like other people can build stuff on top of that as well and make visualizations and make other kinds of interpretations. But also so that you have a sovereign professional graph of your connections, because that's what actually makes you independent, is having a referral base and having a network that you can call on continuously for future work so that you don't have to rely on platforms and bounty boards and marketplaces whose business models are fundamentally misaligned with what you're trying to do as an independent.
Snaps to that. I really like how you're presenting this. And is it something that we can test out right now? Because I think Bogey and I could probably put a quest in for what we've done today. We kind of went on our own impromptu quest of sorts.
Yeah, we have the website up at Quests.xyz. That's where you can put in for the request access. And then we're doing one-on-one onboardings because we want to make sure that everyone's profile is really, really great. And that like the goal for the profile is to make you feel more seen on the internet as an independent worker than you've ever been before. And so it has both the quests that you're on, but also other things. And we'll be having like a prompt library for prompts that you can pick and fill out in order to express other parts of your work or what your work means to you. And you can respond to prompts with quests, with call to actions. So if you have a Substack or a tip jar or something that you want people to know about, that can also be in your profile. I was talking to Zach from Coordinape about displaying like your give total on your Quest profile, right? Because all of that adds color to like who you are and what it's like to work with you. And in a way, like when you're an independent and you're collaborating with people and you're jumping into different quests with different people, it's more like dating than it is like finding a full-time position. And so you want to know a little bit more about these people. You want to know what's going on. You want people to know a little bit more about you and like where your values are and whatnot. And so we're trying to bring that like much more human aspect of work to these profiles. And so they actually look more like a portfolio website than like a mobile first portfolio website than they do like a Twitter profile. Like they don't really look like a social media profile the way that you might expect it to look.
It made me think of two things. Tindao, like swiping right on your, nope, don't want to contribute.
I think that's a little too on the nose for us, but I guess someone could create it, right?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal credentialing system, and that's what I was going to say. In the end, you work with these different teams. Every NFT is a unique team portfolio to that unique team, and then every product put out from that team or service is a part of that portfolio on chain. And every time someone uses it or looks at that, they can say, oh yeah, there's on-chain data that says here's the team that built it. We can contact them directly, say, hey, build something else just like this, and help motivate those teams to work together again.
Right. And that's what I found over my 10 years of working independently, is that when I was working in community in like a network dense group of people, I didn't have to ever think about where work was coming from. I didn't have to think about the risk of like a job going bad or anything like that, because you're so networked in with the people around the person you're working with that like everyone's on their best behavior. Everyone is bringing their best, like self to the project. And you end up with better projects that are higher paying because people can trust you more. And so like my journey as independent worker, I sort of went through all of these different phases. Like originally I was like doing graphic design, freelancing like in high school and early college. And, it was like a lot of like small business freelancing for like mom and pop shops and things like that in my neighborhood in Queens. And I never had to think about where my next gig was coming from. There would always be someone who's like, oh, I need something, I need this, I need that. And I would just sort of take those jobs and do them. And then when I dropped out of college to build my first company, and when I left that company, I realized I had no money. I moved back in with my parents at 23 years old, and I was, I had no professional network anymore because I didn't want to do graphic design freelancing. I wanted to do UI UX and product management and web development because I had learned those skills at my first company. And so I was sitting there like super alone, like, wow, this is like a really lonely experience. How do I get myself like established again? And I used marketplaces to like get off the ground, but then realized what I was talking about earlier, which is that these platforms are not incentivized to ever make me independent. They want me to be dependent on them. So how do I get back into being like truly independent and not giving 5 to 20% of my income to these platforms just for finding me, new work in perpetuity? And so what happened was I stumbled upon this gig to work at Techstars for their blockchain accelerator. So it was like right after I had just gotten into crypto. It was like after the bubble popped in 2018, and I got in late 2018, and then this program started in 2019. And so I did this 3-month program where I was a design associate for that. And at the end of the program, I had like killed myself to do as much work as I could to be as good as I could at that job. And after that, I had a bunch of people coming to me asking for me to do work. And this work was like way higher paying by like a multiple than what I had found on Upwork. It was more interesting. These were people that I was like having a lot more fun working with. And then I was also now in Web3. And so I was in these like early NFT gaming communities, which we would have called DAOs. Now we would call them DAOs, but they were very DAO-like at the time. And something was happening there. I was getting work. It was more fun. It was more interesting. I was doing NFT pre-sales. I was doing all this like really cool stuff. And I was like, wow, whatever this is, it's like working in community is like the way to do sustainable independent work. And like, how do we get more people to be able to experience this? And that's where Clarity actually was born out of, was like, well, if we created a workspace that's native to this environment, maybe we can make it easier for these communities to organize. There could be more of those communities, and then people could join them. And now Quest is an even more refined version of that says, oh, instead of depending on the community to pick this tool, you can just make sure that you can use this tool everywhere you go and like be in control of your own reputation and your own credentials and your own way that you're represented online. And this is just a further simplification of that same vision, that same mission of like, how do we get more independent workers to be able to work in community and have this sort of sustainable, truly independent style of work.
Yeah, what I would love to see down the road as this further gets built out, if you're not already planning on doing it or not already building it, is to be able to see those team NFTs in a list connected to the projects that they worked on, and the ability to click on that link and try to hire that team again.
Yeah, love that. I mean, the cool thing is you'll be able to put on your profile like how to contact you, and we could even let you be contacted through like an anonymous like email or number. So we create like a relay for you so that you can be contacted directly without exposing your personal information. So that you can just reach out to people directly. And like the cool thing is that like we're not going to have a marketplace. So like we're not going to like try and match you with other people to work with. We're just giving you a profile that you can stick in your Twitter bio, or you can stick in your Discord bio, and you can like send around to people when they ask you like, what do you do? And like, what's your deal? Right? Like people send their LinkedIn, like, but what do we send? We don't have anything like that. Right? So like you could send this. And so you'll be actually sharing it with people who are already, sort of in your network and are, trusted, or like a first or second or third degree connection. And that's going to make the kinds of people who come through there way higher signal, because you're sharing that profile, you're sharing those quests in environments where you're already in like trusted or quasi-trusted groups, like group chats and telegrams and Discord channels and DMs.
Yeah, I really like that. Something like this came up after some of the conferences that happen. We some of us bounce around to some of these ETH conferences or the Taoist or whichever, right? And you tend to have an overwhelming amount of information over the course of however many hours you push through it, and it's amazing, and you're making all these connections, but it's also really draining. But you also, at least in my experience, you tend to end up on these maybe quests, like you're saying, that happen because you met this person who introduced you to this person, or you happen to sit through this talk, or right? And we would talk about it after seeing each other again at some other conference in some other city or some other country, being like, oh, hey, it's you again. And you would have that memory, right? You'd have that joke, you'd have that laugh.
Yeah, I love it.
And so it's nice to have something like this. We had talked about making like one-liner innuendo IPFS like storage, time capsule memories or something. So it's cool to see something like this. I think it's like directly in line with what we were just kind of joking about and didn't, so thank you. I'm excited to play that.
Yeah, totally. And then you could see how like quests start to combine. So like that's a one-off quest that happens like bottoms up, right? It was meaningful to you, it was meaningful to this other person. You could do the same thing within the context of a DAO, right? You could say like, oh, like our pod is going to work on this, and like we're going to create a quest. It doesn't matter if the rest of the DAO is using quests. Like you get to just do it because you think it's useful for you and you want to represent that work and commemorate the work that you're doing and showcase it. But then what's really interesting is like you can have a DAO is kind of just like a network of quests, right? So you could say like let's use Cabin DAO as an example. You could say like Cabin DAO season 2 happens. That's a quest, and all the contributors are going to jump on that quest. But then you have a linked quest that's like for each of their build weeks that they do, and all the people who worked on those are contributing to those quests. And then you have like the podcast they put out, and maybe the article series they do, and each of those is a quest. So now you have like this core quest with these like 4 or 5 other quests that are linked to it, and each of those is like linked to all the contributions that people submitted to the quests. And now that's like a pretty good representation of like the DAO and the shape of the DAO, if you think about it, right? It's like that's one lens to apply to like how to view the DAO. And so then you have each of the seasons. You have season 2, and that's linked to season 3. And so it's sort of like these little trains, you can think of as like a railroad with like stops, where like season 2, and like here's all the stuff that happened there, and like season 3, and here's all the stuff that happened there. And that lets you now navigate the DAO in a different lens that's actually based on like who's working with who and who's doing what, and like what that meant to everybody. And I think that's where it gets really interesting, where like now you can navigate these little like pockets of networks, and then you can jump from that maybe the podcast, they interviewed a bunch of people from all these different DAOs. So like now that's going to connect to all of these other people in different communities, right? And then next thing you know, you're in all these other communities and they're mapping those out with quests, right? And so, and that doesn't have to be a top-down effort. Like that can just be something that people start doing and connecting their quests together because they were happening at the same time, or that they work together, or they were related to one another, or they're an offshoot of the other quest, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, that is awesome.
Sorry, go ahead, Musashi. The one thing I wanted to say is, have you considered any way that it could, you're saying it doesn't have to be a Web3 thing. It doesn't, it can be used alongside of tools or even outside of like how your DAO's tracking contributions. Can you think of any way that we can integrate it into my meta profiles or meta OS that we're working on, where we're kind of aggregating, we're moving into more of like aggregating different identities across Web3 and different, having your NFTs show up, or having widgets that show what DAOs you're in. So, if we were able to maybe show like what quest you've been on as like a widget that we add to our dashboard,
exactly,
or add you as a guild to us that people can connect to right through our My Meta profiles, it might be good to onboard you guys.
Totally. That's exactly why you'd want to use the Web3 technologies, right? Like now we can start to represent quests in other places, including your wallet, right? And that's where it starts to get really interesting. So like when people are like, well, why does this have to be Web3? It's like, well, you get all these interesting benefits of having things be interoperable by default. And the NFT is a core piece of that. And we're trying to create something that's like really simple so that it can be represented reliably across different front ends and clients, right? And so people understand like what it is and what the significance of it is. But on your meta profile, you could also have the people that you worked with through quests, because that's all going to be on chain, right? So you could start to display that too. And there, different profiles could emphasize different parts of those collaborations.
Yeah, I would love to do kind of a dual purpose one-on-one with you to get me up on Quest and to talk to you, like further bridge build with you about guilding up with metagame.
Great. Sounds great.
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying before, Richie, that really also helps build the lore and kind of the timeline of the DAO, the storyline, where writers can kind of just come in and pick this story apart or put it together. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean, that another way to describe a quest is that a quest is a story. And you have all these facts. The facts are the transactions, the docs that were written, the tasks that were done, the bounties that were posted and completed, all like the funding that we got from a DAO to like do the quest, right? All of those are facts, but alone that transaction doesn't really mean anything, right? It just tells you what happened. It doesn't mean, oh, this person like submitted a proposal and like they got this done and like the significance of that project. And so Quest is meant to be, like a meta storytelling tool where you can like collect all these facts and tell the story that helps to make them make sense, so that when people look at it, they don't just see a transaction, they see a DAO funding a squad to do a really cool project.
Exactly. Having done some writing and reporting in the past, this is all this, my part is all that in between stuff, telling the story of the facts and the data. And that is all the stuff that I need to collect to tell the story. And so having that all just laid out right there it's perfect for a writer to be, the story's laid out.
And usually you wouldn't be incentivized to do that. Like as a contributor, you wouldn't be incentivized to do that. But now, because you're showing your work off, and because that leads to future work, that's what you want to do and what you need to do, right? And the best independent workers are people who can tell the story of a past collaboration and why it's relevant to the work that they want to do for this new client or this new squad that they're joining. And so Quest sort of like has a lot of these like baked in best practices that I learned as a freelancer or independent worker for the last 10 years. And like everyone on our team is also this is our first W-2 is the company that we're doing right now, and which is Quests and Clarity. So we've been independent forever, and we're baking a lot of those best practices into the product.
That's beautiful. Great to hear. Does anyone have more questions? We've had pretty much an action-packed hour and a half, hour straight, well, of straight guests. Man, amazing stuff. Richie, thanks for sharing what you all have been working on with the quests. Thanks for helping us to understand that it's not just another thing, that it has some special, unique case that really is special. It really is unique, and it does add value to our communities.
Wow, I'm very glad to hear that came through. There's the space, even though it's bear market, it still can be noisy, especially on the term of like reputation and proof of work and things like that. And so we're hoping to cut through the noise with something that is informed by like real experience doing this for years. And so I'm glad. Thank you very much for saying that.
I also put in my forum request to get inside of Quests.
Woo!
So excited to get in there, do some stuff.
Love it. Beautiful.
Yep, I signed up.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's always fun to come back in here.
Hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing. Thanks to everyone for coming out and sharing and helping. To Bogey, a metagamer, for recording today. We always appreciate you. Everyone who puts into this and the planning and all that with Tommy and Anna and everyone. Community calls are really getting to be something I look forward to here in metagame now. Well, they always have been, to be honest. That never ended. It's the people that make metagame what it is. So appreciate you all. Peace. Appreciate you for putting it together, starting it all, for allowing Nova to infect your brain.
For hosting. Thank you everybody for coming.
Easy to host in a community of great people. Tommy's emojis. Robot Octo World. You get me, right?
Oh yeah.
It's great.
Do you hear me? Woo. Yes. Want to close today's space with a song?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. Lead us out.
This is a song. This is a song for our mothers to send a good intention to our mothers. Oh Mama from Juanito Macandé. La vida con su camino de espinas duele, te lleva por los cielos y otra vez se muerde y sigue, te arrastra por los campos de la intolerancia. Agárrate fuerte cuando levantes un salto, verás, abre tu alma y reconoce las señales que el universo va dejándote. crece por dentro, no debes perder el tiempo. Salta al abismo, te arrepentirás. Y llámame si encuentras la receta, llámame, compártela con tus hermanos, y muéstrame los poemas que has escrito con la mano. Oh, mamá, y cada vez lo veo más claro, que sabias fueron tus palabras y pocas veces te hice caso. Oh, mamá, cada vez lo veo más claro, que sabias fueron tus palabras y pocas veces te hice caso. Oh, mamá. Batalla larga la de comprender al hombre, camina siempre por el filo entre las sombras y habita bien despacio el campo donde habita el miedo. Hazle un canuto y dale de fumar. Respira con paciencia, siempre hay una vez primera. Y cuando llegue, saborea y grábalo. No escupas alto que después suele caer encima. Si tienes frío, arrímate al calor. Y llámame si encuentras la receta, llámame, compártela con tu hermano. Y muéstrame los poemas que has escrito con la mano. Oh, mamá, y cada vez lo veo más claro, que sabias fueron tus palabras y pocas veces te hice caso. Oh, mamá, y cada vez lo veo más claro, que sabias fueron tus palabras, hecho de menos tus garbanzos.
That was amazing. I love that. That was real nice. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna stop recording now, homies. I'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Gosh, I just got rugged. Happy to share the music. Happy to see the space. Looking forward.
Woo!
Woo!
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Take it easy.